Let's continue with the draft talk. Tom Curran at NBC Sports Boston. He has said over the past week, and I love this point by Tom, and I think that this is a very smart way to look at the draft grades that are thrown out there. As Tommy Curran has said, draft grades are about the execution of the draft. It's not necessarily you're giving an A or an A plus because you think all of those picks are going to be home runs at the NFL level. It's the execution of the draft. It's where you got guys. Did you reach for certain players? Did you manipulate the board in the right way? Did you get ahead of runs? And that's really the truth. When I'm giving out my draft grade at Lockdown this past Monday's episode, I'm looking at those specific areas. Did they get in front of a run? Did they manipulate the board like they did and still get Jared Wilson at 95? How many times did they reach? How many times did they get guys that the consensus would say were quote-unquote steals? It's more about the operation and execution of the draft than it is about the actual players and what they're going to be 3 years from now. I have no idea. You have no idea if any of this is going to work out. Mike Vrabel doesn't even have an idea if this draft is going to be truly a home run 750, 800 days from now. He doesn't even know. However, it's not just me and Tom Curran and other podcasters and members of the media. It's not just us. It's not just fans loving what the Patriots did in this draft. And I think that's more important than anything else because we've talked about this draft a lot. We will continue to talk about this draft moving forward. But as more time has gone, we're now more than a week since the first round, which is crazy. It's already been 8 days since Will Campbell was drafted. But with more time, we get more info and we get more reporting. And reporters are out there and they're talking to their sources across the league. And so as time goes on, we get a better feel for how the NFL looks at each and every draft class. I mentioned Mike Sando had his column in The Athletic. Doug Kyde came out with something in the Boston Herald. And here's what Kyde wrote about the reaction within the NFL, the reaction in the NFL about what the Patriots did. Here's Kyde, quote, "I thought they did a really nice job. Should be able to get early contributions from a lot of them," an AFC South scout said. Quote, "Farmer and Swinson on day 3 were great values," unquote. An NFC West executive added, quote, "I thought they had a very strong draft all the way through," unquote. An AFC analytics executive ranked it top 10 across the NFL. Here's what that analytics exec said. "I think it's a really, really solid class. They filled a lot of holes with guys I liked. They did not add one single player that I was super high on or found amazing value in a certain pick, but I didn't dislike a single one of those first 6 picks, which is more than I can say for most teams in the league. Simply not bleeping up puts you ahead of half the league." I love that comment. Simply not bleeping up the draft makes you better than half the league right out of the gates. This matters. When people in the league are talking to these writers, it matters what they think about a team's draft class. Because as I said, heading into the draft, we could look at all of these mock drafts. We could listen to every single analyst and pundit that we can listen to. We can watch as much as we can watch on NFL Network, ESPN, and on the podcast on YouTube, like this one. We can look at the mock draft database and get an idea of what the consensus is. But none of us truly know what people in the league behind closed doors, we don't know what those people think about these players. And that's why you have somebody like Jalen Noel. If we had a poll before last Friday night when the second round started, and we asked, would you be okay if the Patriots drafted Jalen Noel at 38? I think most of us, including me, would say, yeah, I'd live with Jalen Noel at 38. I'd be okay with that pick. And then Jalen Noel, the night of the draft, gets picked 79th. So we have no idea. We truly have no idea how the league feels about these players until they get drafted. Braden Swinson falls to the 5th round. Nobody had Braden Swinson falling to the 5th round. So when people in the league talk about draft classes, it matters because people in the league have a much better feel as to where these guys were going to go, where they should have gone, how coaches feel about them, what executives are saying, the conversations they've had on the phone, all those different elements, all the behind the scenes elements that lead them to a better value of the player that's drafted. So when people in the league say something, it means a heck of a lot more, with all due respect, than Todd McShay or Mel Kiper or Daniel Jeremiah. So when people in the NFL are coming out saying that the Patriots had a really good draft, that matters. It matters much more than anything that's written at ESPN, because the NFL's value of each player is different than the pundits' value of each player. These guys understand. These men and women in the NFL, they have all the intel. They've had the conversations. They have the intel on how the draft broke down. What was their team thinking in the draft room in the 2nd round, for example? When TreVeyon Henderson went 38, was everybody in that room going, that's a good pick? Or was the overall thought, wow, that's a reach. Can't believe they drafted TreVeyon Henderson at 38. And Kyle Williams goes 69th. What's the general reaction throughout the league to that pick? We don't know. These people talking to reporters like Doug Kyde, they know. They have the intel on how the draft broke down, the adjustments that were made by other teams, by their team. So this matters much more. And the fact that these sources, these executives, these scouts, the fact that they can go on record with anonymity, that means even more. Because when you have anonymity, you have freedom to speak and say whatever you want. There's no reason for these anonymous sources around the league to come out and say the Patriots did a good job drafting. There's no ulterior motive here. They're giving their actual honest opinion on what the Patriots did. They have the freedom to throw a team under the bus if they want. They have the freedom to be sunshine, roses, throwing bouquets at a certain organization. So when you have anonymous sources from within the league giving a thumbs up to the Patriots draft, that holds weight, because those people in the league are not going to go out of their way to say nice things about other teams just to say nice things about other teams. It's just not going to happen. It's like radio. I don't think I'd get a lot of people in the radio world to say nice things voluntarily about other radio people for whatever reason. I just don't see it in the NFL. I don't see an NFL analytics guy going to Doug Kyde and saying, oh, I thought the Patriots had a good draft, because he's trying to angle in some way. No, he's just saying, I thought they had a good draft. So when we look at this, because I think sometimes this like gets thrown out there that, oh, the local media, the local people, the homers of the media, blah, 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 blah. Of course, they loved the draft class. What else are they going to say? First of all, it goes year to year to year. It goes pick to pick to pick. I hated the Cole Strange pick with every fiber of my being. I really liked the Jalen Polk pick last year. Right, wrong, whatever. It's not one big monolith when we break down the draft. Not everybody is the same. But when you look at this draft, think of it this way. Local people loved the draft for the most part. National people loved the draft for the most part. People inside the game, people in the NFL are going on record saying that they thought the Patriots did a great job in this draft. So we're talking about almost universal agreement that the Patriots, their execution in this draft, again, execution, the execution in this draft was top-notch execution. Locally, nationally, people inside the game almost universally agree that the Patriots had a great weekend last weekend. And that, to me, means something. It's not just being thrown out there by somebody who has skin in the game, so to speak. It's universal, almost universal.